we have breaking news here. Per Adam Schefter of ESPN, Ian Rappaport of NFL Media, they're all getting it at the same time. Chris Jones has agreed to a 1-year deal with Kansas City. I would think he's going to play, even though he hasn't been practicing. I'm sure he was at the game last week. I'm sure he's going to play on Sunday. Yeah. Maybe a limited amount of stuff. I don't know. We'll see over the course of the week. But Chris Jones is back with Kansas City now. The holdout is over. Chris Jones will be back with the Chiefs.
Half the board is 3 now instead of 2.5.
Okay. At BetMGM, you're home to bet 2.5 on Kansas City.
Yeah. Half the board's still 2.5 to be fair. Are we doing this game now?
Yep, we are.
Good. We need. Okay. So if you would like closing value on this game and you're listening live, like if you want not what do we think is going to happen in the game, you should find a 2.5 and bet it. Not because it's right, not because like that should be what happens. That's going to happen. Like everyone's going to 3. So if you bet 2.5, like put it this way, I don't think it's going to go back down again. Like you're just going to be holding like a somewhat valuable bet, and you're going to figure out what you want to do with it. And that's even before we even talk about Kelsey and what might happen in the game when that happens.
And we talked about this game on Friday, right, following Thursday night, P squared, B squared, and kind of like you nailed it, man. You were like, I think this is going to open 2.5, like -15,
and then move when the injury information comes out.
And what did it open? It opened 2 -15. What did I do? I bet Kansas City because like we talked about this on
and what's
Friday.
happening right now?
The line is moving, and then the game will be played in Jacksonville. We'll win and I'll lose, but that's not the point. For right now, that's not the point.
I think people that listen to the show a long time pick up on this. Like, why are you betting? Like, are you betting because you want to get the best of the number? Like, you really believe that? You really believe that's what you want to do? Because I think some people say that, and then they, like, get to Sunday, and it's like, oh, just COV, it wasn't worth anything. Then don't do that. Then just bet your opinion on Sunday, which is totally fine and really fun, and you'll have a great time, and maybe you'll win. Like, cool, whatever. But, like, if that's the goal, then cool. Like, we're trying to give you some stuff early in the week that's going to age really well. And if, like, you're going to get to the end and then that's like, it doesn't work out and you're like, I shouldn't have done that. Cool. Then like this style isn't for you. And that's totally okay. But like, there isn't a right answer. It's like, cool. Just like bet your opinion on Sunday when we know all the injury information and everything is already moved and you can really think about like clearly about the game and what you think is going to happen. Great. No problem. But like, again, this isn't like, I like the Chiefs in the game. It's 2.5 and it's way more likely to go to 3 than go down. It's already gone to 3 in most places. And like when Kelsey gets announced in, if that happens, and it's going to go to 3 on Jones, 320, 3.5, probably 3.5. I mean, honestly.
And then we can have a different conversation about what to do in the game.
Right, exactly. You said you had already a lot of games that were kind of piquing your interest. Give me like one thing that immediately stands out to you aside total market that you're probably going to bet as the week goes on.
I like this matchup for the Falcons a lot. I liked it before we got to, kind of see the results play out from week 1. And I think particularly if Green Bay has like a repeat performance as being a market darling here, then I'm excited to see where the inflection point is to come in on Atlanta here. I don't know if I'm reading too much into what that defense did because they were the beneficiaries of 3 takeaways and 2 fourth down stops, which certainly helped their overall performance look good. But I still think the defense is rostered fairly well to take away a Green Bay team that still is very, very young, and I don't know should be a favorite, favorite on the road at this point against a team that has somewhat of a pulse, particularly because their defense can get pushed around with a more physical approach, and they had a couple injuries that I think matter yesterday. So Atlanta to me looks like a fun bet against the Packers, but I'm going to wait and see what kind of price materializes there. From the sound of your opening, I guess we're just cheering for anything but a tie in that one, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to build that as, I think the winner of that game might win Coach of the Year. I think that's actually This might be literally the game for Coach of the Year. And I like both coaches a lot to win that award versus literally the entire field. And one's going to have a game advantage. So like, we'll have a huge leg up. Whoever wins probably moves alongside Dan Campbell for co-fave. Do you agree with that, Will? Do you like one coach more than the other?
I like LaFleur a little bit more than I like the Falcons because if you stack them side by side at the end of the year, the Falcons have clearly a much easier schedule and they're doing it a little bit of an unconventional way. And while that may get some of the football writer hardos really get them excited, like he's doing, look, running backs do matter. Look at this guy's doing. Wow. That could be enough of a push, but the idea of LaFleur having a team that's this young, performing at that level that they, we saw him against, a little bit of a JV defense for Chicago. So it's tough to say that continues through the entire balance of the season. But if they do ultimately perform as well or better even than last year's offense, and you've replaced Aaron Rodgers with Jordan Love, and you've got this entire young core of offensive talent that just doesn't have reps, then I think LaFleur is going to scoop a ton of the credit there. And his path potentially a little bit maybe a little bit easier to get to division champ and the 3 seed, even though, again, I like specifically the way the Falcons match up against them this week. So the price obviously matters too. They're both at 13-1 right now, looking at the prices that are up on the screen right now. So I would lean against Dan Campbell, though. Still, I think he's probably a false favorite in that market.
Well, maybe wait until after the Lions beat the Seahawks by 100 this week.
Right.
We can go from there.
Is there a vulnerable favorite? Like, is this, and it's the easiest way to like think about awards. Like, yes, there is more depth than that. Yes, you can like do a lot more stuff than that. But like, it's a really good first question when you look at every single award market. Like, who is the favorite, especially if it's a big priced favorite? Like, is this someone that I want to try to beat? And the biggest problem now, despite the fact that he won last year, is I don't know how it's possible to have watched the first 3 weeks of this and to look at the market, and I don't know how it's possible to think Caleb Williams is vulnerable. I don't know how that's possible. He's been the best statistically. He almost didn't have an incompletion against it. When it beat Stanford, still scoring touchdowns in the game. Like 2 incompletions, like an impeccable statistical record. They've won every game by 1 billion. He is a very high-profile celebrity-level player now. So it's like, it used to be like, oh, West Coast players, like they're not going. The guy won last year, and he's making $3 million to play college football. And his dad is telling people he may not go to. Like, he's in the news every day. So all that's done. Like, that's not part of the handicap at all. So why am I going to try to beat it? Like, I bet Jalen Milroe at a huge price because Alabama's favored, and if they win, his price is going to drop. And he ended up being kind of fool's gold, and maybe they go to somebody else eventually this year. Like, cool. Like, you take a shot on a big price. The team loses outright as a big favorite. Like, great, whatever. People be like, oh, Quinn Ewers. Like, yeah, Quinn Ewers can win, but, like, just start with the basics. Caleb Williams is the favorite to win the Heisman. His team is undefeated, and they look really good, and he has insanely good – he has better statistics than everyone else. Is he vulnerable? And the only reason you would say no is because people don't generally win this back-to-back. But now we're in, like, NIL era and transfer era, and he's back and they're awesome again. Like, I don't know why you'd put $1 into the market right now with him, like, having this kind of a season. You'd have to see him be worse or think there's a really good chance coming up soon he'd be worse to want to bet into other players right now. Until we get to the point where you feel that way, and I don't think it's soon, then I wouldn't bet on anybody else. Now, if USC is about to enter the toughest game of the year or a late season stretch, and you'd be like, man, I think he's about to have a clunker, I want to bet somebody else, great. But, like, the way things are going right now, like, I don't know why you would take shots against him, and he's already really low price. I don't know why you'd play on him. So, like, until the favorite gets vulnerable, I don't think this is a great award market to bet into right now.
Is there anyone in, like, the Jalen Milroe mold, like, this week where it's like, okay, like, let's try to get ahead of a move maybe?
I think the thought would be Notre Dame and Ohio State play in 2 weeks. I don't love Hartman to win the award, but, like, I'll say, like, if I did it, if you did like him, that's, like, his standout game, obviously. Beat Ohio State, he becomes one of the favorites to win the Heisman. And then on the opposite side, like, Marvin Harrison Jr. had the worst week 1 imaginable. 2 touchdowns last week. They're gonna score 900 points against Western Kentucky this week. He has the chance to have whatever stat line he wants. Like, it's the candidate from the 2 gate teams that are going to play each other in a couple weeks. Like, do you want them? Those are the price drops that are probably coming now because that's the big game that hasn't happened. What happened to Ewers? That's happened already. Now, when's that going to happen to somebody else? It's probably the Ohio State Notre Dame game. But hey, man, Caleb Williams is not going to be vulnerable. Like, I don't think there's a lot to talk about.
And that is day 1 of Lockmas.